Hmm. Is this the tournament?
Hi, are you here to judge?
Yes, I'm here to judge.
Great, let's get you signed in here. Okay, which event would you like to judge?
Wait, there's more than one?
Yes, there's LD, TP, and Parli.
TP? Like toilet paper?
Haha, very funny. TP means team policy.
Oh, what's that?
Team policy? It's a policy debate. This year, it's about South America.
Okay, that sounds fun, I guess.
Great, I will get you signed up. You're gonna have so much fun. You're gonna learn a lot over the course of that hour. Don't fall asleep in there.
Hour?
I'm certain you'll have a blast. Here's your ballot, and Jo is right over there.
Oh. Okay. Hour. J.O. What have I gotten myself into?
Thank you so much for judging.
I'm sure that some of you have probably experienced something very similar to that situation. Being called in to judge, wanting to be really helpful, but then being completely overwhelmed at the sheer amount of information and, of course, the skill of these high schoolers giving these presentations and talking about these topics, that it can be, again, overwhelming. Who do I vote for? How do I even vote at all? And a lot of tournaments do a really good job at explaining to judges how things work and what you're going to do in a round. But I do think that there's a little bit of information that is often missed. And so the purpose of this video is actually to help you judge debate, coming from a judge and a coach. And I try to instruct my students to be clear and concise and to make it easier for you when you are judging. But of course, that's not always going to happen. So I want to prepare you as best as possible in order to get ready for the next speech and debate tournament that you told your family members or friends that you would come and help judge. So first of all, thank you for judging. And second of all, my name is Coach Micah. I create content on here specifically for Stoa families to get familiar with debate topics. I'm currently working on how to do the same with speech. But for this video, I wanted to focus on you, the judge, whether you're a parent judge or an older sibling who has siblings that are now competing in the league and you've never been exposed to the league. Maybe you're a first-time judge and you're noticing that your kids or your friends' kids are doing it and you want to help out your community judge. This is the video for you. My goal is to, at the end of this video, help you feel more confident in the ability to judge a debate round, not only to get a good experience out of it, but also to be helpful in providing important feedback for the debaters, because at the end of the day, it's your feedback that is going to help them succeed later on in the tournament and hopefully later on in their lives. Welcome to a beginner's guide to judging debate. Now, debate is one of the best things in the world, but it can be pretty daunting, and that's why I ultimately wanted to create this video. And just a helpful notice, the information that I will be giving in this video is not for telling you who you need to vote for in every round, but rather I want to summarize the debate events and the rules from official Stoa documents that help you understand the purpose of the debate, and of course, what you should do if you get lost or you don't understand where the debaters are trying to go. In no way am I going to be telling you who to vote for any resolution, whether you should vote affirmative or negative, but rather show you what voting for those actually means, how the debates are structured so that you can get familiar with those kinds of debate. This video will be categorized in 3 different ways. First, we're going to be talking about the events and how they work, the descriptions of each of them. Next, we're going to place you in the round at the judge's table, and we are going to help you understand your ballot, of course, the interactions with the debaters, and what you should do to take notes. And lastly, we're going to be talking about what happens when you get back to the designated place where you can fill out your ballot in a place called Judge Hospitality. There, not only will you be hopefully well fed by the tournament staff, but you will also be given an opportunity to provide feedback for the students to use for their future debates, because at the end of the day, they're trying to grow in their critical thinking skills, and they're also in a competition, so you gotta pick a winner. And the goal of that section is to show you how you might go about doing that. Not who you should pick, but how you might pick, what that might look like. So the first thing we need to just get out of the way here is that this information does not replace judge orientation. So within every tournament and before every debate round, there is a special meeting, I guess you could say, with some of the tournament staff for judges who, if it's their first time or they may not be familiar with the topics of the debate, and it's for them to learn a little bit about the topics, because debate resolutions change every single year and every couple months, and the Stoa board updates the rules for these events every year. So you might have judged a debate in the past and they've actually changed a couple things about how it works, and so if you try to come in and judge it again, you might be missing something. So this information that I'm giving you does not replace judge orientation. You still have to go through that, but rather I want you to use the information you've gathered from this video and bring that into judge orientation so that everything makes complete sense. But with that, we need to get started in the event descriptions. The first form of debate is, of course, Lincoln Douglas, which is also called LD. It also happens to be the best form of debate. I kid, I jest, but I am a coach for LD. It's my passion, and it is something that I really love to judge, but who knows, the other two debates are also really, really cool. So first, a Lincoln Douglas debate examines competing value systems that answer big questions. The purpose of Lincoln Douglas value debate is to instill the skills of presentation, critical thinking, research, and value analysis. Now, with Stoa, that endeavor is accomplished in an environment of honorable competition that cultivates maturity, wisdom, grace, poise, and of course brings glory to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now, Stoa isn't the only debate league that uses Lincoln Douglas. It is found in other debate leagues. And so a lot of this information will be relevant too if you ever wanted to try going to a different tournament. But of course, this information, these descriptions come from the Stoa website. So that is where the main relevance lies. But the idea of Lincoln Douglas is you are looking at big ideas, broad topics, and competing ethical or value systems. People are going to be discussing big ideas, the goodness or badness of something. And you'll see here in the middle of the slide, this is how the event is structured. So you have one competitor that is debating a second competitor, and they're on side affirmative, affirming the resolution, or side negative, negating the resolution. These debates generally last between 40 to 50 minutes, and there's that time disparity because of certain things like preparation time that is allotted to students, whether or not they would like to use it, and sometimes it might take a minute or two for competitors to find their way to the round before you do, or vice versa. You might be late, you'll be fine. The second part is, of course, cross-examination. Each student gets a chance to ask questions and of course answer questions, and those can take up to 3 minutes, but they don't always have to. Some students prefer to ask more or less questions in order to have more impact. And an LD debate is made up of 5 total speeches. Each competitor gets 13 minutes combined to persuade you of why you should vote for them. And with Lincoln Douglas, the affirmative represents the resolution. They want you to vote affirmative, whereas the negative says the resolution is wrong and they want you to vote negative. Now, Lincoln Douglas came from and is modeled from the debates between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas back in the 1850s. The resolutions, or the topics for these debates, are created for the competitors to focus on ethical and moral arguments. So, why is something considered good or bad? And why should we take an action? Emphasis on the word should. Why should we take an action? What are the benefits or the consequences that impact us in a certain way? So that is Lincoln Douglas in a nutshell. It's a shorter form of debate in which debaters focus on bigger, more ethical, philosophical topics. The second form of debate is known as team policy, or TP. A team policy debate asks the competitors to develop and defend competing policy options, which you address contemporary problems. And the purpose of team policy is to instill in these homeschool students the skills of presentation, critical thinking, research, and policy analysis. So whereas Lincoln Douglas focuses on big ideas, moral arguments. Team policy focuses more on the numbers, the analytical side, policy analysis. So you're looking at the real world, how these policies that you might want to vote for or against affect real people, the economy, people's rights, etc. Team policy, coming from the word team, is longer than LD, almost twice as long, because you are dealing with two extra competitors. You have two competitors who are on one team, Team Affirmative. They're trying to get you to vote for the resolution, which is a policy. And then the negative side also has two competitors that are teaming up together, and they will try to get you to vote against the resolution, to vote against the affirmative side. This debate round takes a little bit longer, and if you're really interested in the analytics and different policies and how government structures work, and of course, all of that really good real world stuff, then this is the perfect amount of time for you to learn about these topics. So about 70 to 80 minutes, about a little over an hour, potentially even an hour and a half, depending on how the round goes. Rather than having 2 cross-examination sessions, team policy has 4, because each competitor needs a chance to either answer or ask questions. And rather than having 5 total speeches, there are 8 total speeches in a team policy round. So if you like a shorter event and you want big ideas, more philosophical, less tangible pieces of evidence, more ideas and, just kind of things, ethical ideas floating in the air, a little bit more ambiguity, subjectivity, LD is the perfect event for you. Team policy is more analytical, focused on the real world impacts, and of course, supporting these ideas with a lot of evidence. If that is something that speaks to you, then team policy would be the perfect event to judge. But then, of course, we have parliamentary debate, so modeled after parliament or the different forms of government in Europe. Parliamentary debate is an activity in which 2 students debate one another in an extemporaneous form of debate. Parliamentary debate asks competitors to develop and defend positions on a wide range of issues that could be a fact, value, or policy scenario in nature. Parliamentary debate, also known as Parli, not only relies on quick thinking, but also on accumulation of general knowledge on a broad range of subjects. And the purpose is to instill the skills of presentation, critical thinking, research, and analysis of current events. So what is the main difference? Lincoln Douglas and team policy get a topic at the beginning of the season. So for a vast majority of the tournaments, they are focusing on that same topic. And if you judge multiple rounds in a day, which you can, you're going to hear the same topic, but you're going to hear it debated differently depending on the teams or depending on the competitor. Parliamentary is different. The competitors get their resolution 20 minutes before the round. They do not know what they will be debating until 20 minutes before the round even starts. So what they have to do is, within that 20 minutes, craft a case that makes sense and makes you want to vote for them. Parliamentary can be really fun because it can be an LD style debate with values and ambiguity and philosophical ideas. It could be a policy type debate where one of the teams has to uphold that policy, right? So it could be any of these things. You never know what you're going to get. It's kind of like a random question box like in a Mario game. You don't know exactly what it's going to be. It could be a coin, it could be a mushroom, it could be a flower, anything like that. So the way that this is structured is you have it's a 2v2. It is a team event, and both sides are the government side and the opposition side. So the government side wants you to vote for them, vote for the topic of the debate, and the opposition side wants you to vote for them or against the government. So if at the end of the round you are more persuaded by the opposition, you vote opposition. And if you're more persuaded by the government, then you vote government. Same way of voting there. It takes about 35 to 45 minutes depending on how long the speeches last. The first 4 speeches are 7 minutes long and the last 2 are up to 5 minutes long. There is no cross-examination in Parli. Once a person is finished with their speech, the next person comes up and speaks immediately. There's no preparation time, there's no cross-examination. but students do get to ask questions in the middle of the speech. They get to stand up, they get to say point of information, to which the speaker has the ability to accept that request, and then they can ask their question, but they also do not have to accept a point of information. For example, if I stand up and I say point of information, my competition may accept my question, I can ask it to them, or they can say, I don't have time for questions right now, moving on. And the level to which they do this is up to you. Some judges find it really annoying that they don't take any questions, and others don't want to hear any questions at all. It's up to you. And another thing about Parli debate that I want to mention here is competitors don't always have to ask a question. A point of information could also just be a clarification. They just point out, Judge, I also want to point out that XYZ is really happening here and not ABC, for example. Again, judge orientation will educate you on the exact rules of how this works, but that's how parliamentary debate is structured. There are, again, 6 total speeches. It's a really fun form of debate, especially because a lot of the time the resolutions deal with less serious things. Some of them deal with sports, some of them deal with, very interesting topics like whether or not the best place for a first date is IKEA. The goal is to be fun, depending on who is running the tournament, right? Some people want to have more serious, more relevant forms of the resolution. Others just want to have a fun type of debate. So a parliamentary debate is a grab bag of all sorts of different ideas, and it's something I would totally recommend if you want to see just a purely enjoyable and entertaining form of debate. All right, so you have made your choice and you've decided I am going to go with any of these 3 debates. Now you are sitting down at the table, your competitors have come into the room, they are setting up, and they are about to start. In front of you, the tournament has given you a ballot. Just like any term of voting, you are going to choose the side. Now you'll notice on the top of this ballot, you have the topic. Resolved in foreign policy, diplomacy is more effective than military intervention. This was the topic that started the LD resolution chain this year. It was active from October through December. This topic will be replaced with a different one starting in January. And then there will be a new one if you end up making it to the national tournament, which is a great opportunity if you live around the area to stop in and watch some of the best kids from around the league. Anyways, this is a ballot. You have your topic at front, at the top of it, and of course you have instructions to use only black or blue ink. We don't really use red ink in this league. There's not really a point to it. So black or blue pens, you will be provided a pen if you do not have one, and of course I totally recommend asking the debaters for a pen if you do not have one up to that point. You have the 2 sides of the ballot, the affirmative and the negative side. You will write down the competitor's name in each of these boxes, and sometimes the tournament will actually have that already auto-populated, so you know who the affirmative is and you know who the negative is. We'll look over the rest of this ballot and what these exactly mean later on in the video, but this is the piece of paper that will be put in front of you. You have a reason decision column at the bottom in which you are going to write and again give feedback for these students because they will see this ballot once it is filled out. There are staff members who are designed to help you fill out your ballot if you need any help, and of course once you have filled it out and you turn it in, they will make sure that everything goes well and everything goes smoothly, answer any questions if you have them, and then they will print this ballot and duplicate it so that both competitors have a copy so that they can learn from the mistakes that they made in the round or be encouraged by the helpful feedback that you gave them so that going into the next tournament, they will be able to improve their skills given the feedback that you gave them. And they won't see this ballot until after the tournament is over, FYI. So you can make sure that no one will come for you if you think you've made a wrong decision, and you will not make the wrong decision. You as the judge are 100% justified in the decision that you make. But again, they will not see this feedback until the end of the tournament when they have received their ballots, as the process is called. Next, of course, you have the team policy ballot. Because you have 2 more speakers, you have 2 more boxes. Each box is designed for each speaker. And you'll notice that there is an extra description in those boxes, and you have to circle someone called the first affirmative or the second affirmative. Same thing with the negative. And what team policy teams get to do is they can decide amongst themselves who gets to speak first, who gets to open the debate, who gets to close the debate. And in order to help you keep track, they will tell you, hi, my name is Coach Micah. I am the first affirmative. So you'll circle that. The next person will say, hi, I am Coach Micah. I am the second affirmative. And you'll circle that. And that just helps to give a little bit of organization so that you don't get lost and you're able to tell who's who. And the cool thing with most tournaments is they are often given nameplates, same with LDers and Parli debate teams, that show their name on them as well as what they have chosen to be the first affirmative or the first negative or vice versa. Now, because there's a lot more on this page, there's not really a section for your reason for decision, so they instruct you to explain your reason for your decision on the back of the ballot. The parliamentary ballot looks very similar to the team policy ballot because you have 4 competitors. The resolution is not filled in because you don't know what the resolution is going to be until they give it to you. And of course, like a team policy, they have different titles. So the government side has a prime minister. That's kind of like the first affirmative for Parli. And they have the member of government, which is like the second affirmative for Parli. Same thing with the opposition side. You have the leader of opposition and the member of the opposition. And like team policy, they will tell you which ones they are. You can circle those, and that way you can stay focused and not worried about being lost at who's who. And of course, also just like team policy, you will write your reason for decision on the back of the paper. And it is okay to write throughout this entire ballot. You don't have to stay within the lines because we have pretty advanced photocopy machines that will make sure we get every ounce of feedback that you have for the debaters. So do not worry about that at all. And one thing that I've used in the past is if you ever are filling out your ballot and you feel like maybe your pen is blotched a little bit or you really want to change your idea, you can always ask for a new ballot and then of course just replace all of the markings that you've done up to that point. Either way, you're going to do a great job. I believe in you. You have your ballot in hand and you are ready to start the round. But the debaters don't start debating. Instead, they ask you, hey, judge, tell us a little bit about yourself. Sometimes this catches judges off guard because they were not told or instructed that they had to speak. But one of the cool things about these forms of debate is you get to learn about your judge. Competitors get to ask you what you would like to see or what you don't want to see in a debate round. They ask you about maybe your experience in debate. Their goal is to frame the round in a way that is most helpful for you. They're trying to persuade you. They want you to vote for them. And so students get the ability to ask you some questions in order to learn a bit about you so that they can tailor the debate round for you, so that they can make it as easy as possible for you. And so the purpose of this slide here is to help you with knowing what to say, because sometimes judges don't really know what to say to that. So when they say something like, tell us a little bit about yourself, there's 4 things that I want you to remember. And this will help you, one, make things easier to judge, but it'll also help you to know what to say in front of these really sometimes intimidating students. You have the idea of honesty. So if you don't know why you're judging today, or you don't know how you're going to judge, be honest. If tell us a little about yourself, is there anything you'd like to see in this debate round? You can be honest and say, you know what, this is new to me. I'm not exactly sure what I want to see. We're going to pause there for a second. Just be honest. But the next part of that is, even if you don't know exactly how to put what you're trying to say, and don't worry, there's no specific type of language you have to use for these competitors. If they ask you, what do you want to see? You can be honest. Hey, I don't really know. I've never done this before, but I do like arguments that use evidence, and I want things to be logical, and I just want everything to make sense. That is perfectly okay. In fact, it even gives you an out, because at the end of the round, if they all did such a good job, you can go back to what you said to the debaters, and if you asked for things to be organized, for example, and one of the teams wasn't really organized, that can absolutely be a reason that you don't vote for them. Same thing with the idea of debaters conducting themselves. Remember, you are responsible for a win or a loss, and in a tournament, that's a really big deal Don't be intimidated by that. Remember, it's a competition. They have to persuade you. So, how should they conduct themselves? That's a great way to give some feedback. A lot of judges want the debaters to be respectful. I want you to be clear. I want you to be organized. I want you to focus on logic and not on emotions. Vice versa. You know what you like. You know what is persuasive to you. That's what you should be telling the competitors. And of course, the judges are going to be sometimes asked, well, what is going to be the thing that wins your vote? Very similarly, you can ask, or you can tell the debaters, I am going to vote for the team who is blank, right? So maybe for you, that's organization. I'm going to vote for the team who is the most organized. When it comes to Lincoln Douglas values debate, you're going to say, I'm going to vote for the team who has the best value. Or I'm going to vote for the policy team who convinces me the most using evidence and reason, right? Those are just some examples of things you can say. Of course, judge orientation is going to provide more information for you there. But remember, because you have such a high position of authority within these tournaments, it is really important that you explain to the competitors how you will vote. That way, they can tailor their performance and their persuasion to you. And it can also be a really good out if you don't know who to vote for, because if they just didn't follow your instructions, well, then why would you vote for them anyways, right? So when you are telling them information, be honest, make sure you show them what you're going to find convincing. You could tell them how the debaters are going to conduct themselves, be organized, be respectful, use evidence, etc. And of course, I'm going to vote for the debater who persuades me the most. Things like that. Now, this interaction is not very long. And sometimes the debaters will not ask you what you are going to vote for. They're just going to ask you to tell a little bit about yourself. And sometimes the information you give, they can derive and tweak their performance because they have been taught that different people and different life experiences, same thing with even different genders, and of course, you know, whether or not you're a parent or whether you're alumni, maybe you have a lot of experience in a certain type of field. Those are all relevant information because as people, we're all unique and we have certain things that based off our life experiences, we will vote for. There are certain types of arguments that we will find more or less persuasive. And the competitors hopefully have been trained to take note of that and of course, tailor the round for you. So this is not an interaction that takes very long, but it is crucial to the success for both you and the competitors. So don't worry about it at all. Just be honest and make sure you give them information that is helpful for them. Alongside your ballot, you will most likely have been given a piece of paper called a flow sheet because you do have a little bit of work to do. Remember, this is a debate round and the debaters are going to be making arguments, and it's probably a good idea that you write those arguments down, otherwise you're going to forget, most likely, what a lot of the debaters said. And a lot of people are not taught how to take notes or how to flow within a debate round. Now, of course, this information is relevant to everyone, not just judges, but you have a little work to do. You got to take some notes. And so the purpose of this next section here is to show you exactly what I mean by that. This is a Lincoln Douglas flow sheet. This is a helpful understanding of how the speeches are structured. So you first have the affirmative constructive speech. It's 6 minutes long, and they've given you a nice column to write down the arguments that the competitor has said here. You have the negative constructive, then affirmative rebuttal, then negative rebuttal, then second affirmative rebuttal. Great. So you have been allotted a certain part of this piece of paper for each of those speeches. The problem is that this often isn't actually the best tool for taking notes, especially because you're going to have two different organizational strategies. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is a really good way to spread your ballot. And you'll see these little terms that I have written right in the course for this particular example here. The affirmative is structured usually in an LD round with some sort of pre-value arguments, so resolutional analysis points, definitions, etc. Then you have a value or some sort of weighing mechanism, value criterion, things like that. And then you have the body of the case, the post-value arguments, contentions, applications, subpoints, etc. Now, the reason that you want to split your ballot like this is because of all of the different points that are brought up. And also, you might be tempted to write a lot down, which is good, but then you're going to run out of space for you to write down other arguments, and that'll lead to a quick, disorganized flow sheet. So this is the best way to organize your flow sheet if you've never done it at all. And you're going to be doing something called shorthand, which means not writing out the full word. Sometimes debaters tell you which words you should write, but just for the purpose of this video, these are certain things that you can look at. So of course you have here, right, the way that a debate might be structured in terms of the flow. You're going to have responses to arguments, and so what I like to do is have different arrows that go from one argument to the response, from another argument to the response. You're going to have your group responses, so when a competitor is responding to all of these things at once. There might be a line of argumentation, and we call these lines of argumentation. There might be a line of argumentation that was unaddressed by one of the speakers, so I'm going to write dropped right there, right? And this is ultimately what your flow should look like if everyone was organized. A cohesive line of different arguments in each column as you get closer to the second affirmative rebuttal, which is only 3 minutes long. But of course, with time constraints, debaters are, they can be disorganized. And so here are some things for you to look out for in order to help you be organized. You'll notice at the bottom of the negative constructive, right there in the second column, I use the letter V to mean value. RTP means reason to prefer. Contention 1, C1, right? Subpoint A, I just have A with a colon. Same thing with subpoint B, just B with a colon. Contention 2, C2. An application would be app, or maybe just A, right? These are different types of shorthand. You also have an argument called a resolution analysis, RA, or an impact, which I simplify as either the letter I or letters IMP. Using this shorthand will actually help you to stay organized because you don't have to write as much. You also have something at the end of speeches called a voting issue. This is oftentimes where debaters will summarize the biggest issues of the debate and reasons, specific reasons, why you should vote for them. And those are really important because if you don't know who to vote for, you might as well be told by the competitors of who to vote for. That can often be really, really helpful. So that's ultimately what a Stoa Lincoln Douglas value debate flow sheet will look like if you're trying to stay organized. And again, if a certain team or a certain competitor in a debate forum really made everything disorganized, that is absolutely a reason to vote against them or to give them strong feedback in the ballot telling them they need to be more organized if they want to do better. A lot of times debaters aren't told that when they are disorganized and they don't know how to change or what to change. Then you have a team policy debate flow sheet, and you'll notice that there are a lot more columns. Now, you don't have to worry too much because these papers are actually longer. And so the column width will be the same size as the LD. But you still want to do the same thing. You have constructive arguments and you have negative constructive arguments. Now, there are different ways that team policy debaters like things to be flowed. I am not an expert in team policy, but you can absolutely ask the staff at the tournament. There's a lot of them there who specialize in LD or TP that can help you and give you some ideas on how to flow. But this is just one of those ideas, right? You have a harm, which is categorized by the idea of H. You have a background point, which you can have BP, and if they have multiple, just categorize them 1, 2, 3, etc. I have a P, which is plan, right? M for mandate, SV for solvency, or just S for solvency. I like to use ADV for advantage. Same thing with impact, IMP, right? IMP. There's also, you might hear in the negative side, topicality, which I like to say is TP, disadvantage, DA, evidence, EV, counterplan, CP, etc. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of all the different terms or types of arguments or types of organizational devices that your opponent might use. So I would just listen for instruction and just go with your gut. If you think that a analysis point should be AP, then you put it down as AP, whatever you're going to remember. Now, within a team policy round, there are going to be a lot of arguments said, and the debaters are, hopefully going to be organized for you. Now, it's easier when it comes to longer forms of debate with a lot of information, especially with your first time debating. You might end up getting lost, and it might not necessarily be your speaker's faults. You just might be lost. And if you ever get to that point, a great way to get back in the game, especially if you don't want to be lost anymore and you do want to be helpful and you want to be instructional and instructive and you want to be the best asset possible for these students, start your next column with some bullet points and just write down these arguments in the manner that they were given. That is oftentimes a really good way to reset, to get back into the game, and of course to be as organized as possible. At the end of the day, you are going to write down the things that were persuasive to you. You're going to write things that stood out to you, and you're also going to be writing things that your opponents tell you to write. This is something called, or not your opponents, excuse me. These competitors are going to tell you to write. They're going to have you do what's called tag. They're going to say, you can tag this as, you can write this down as. And what they're saying is, here, make sure you put on paper the exact words that I'm about to say. Now, certain debaters are going to have more relevant and better tags than others, and sometimes they might not be as good as you want them to be, but the idea here is they want you to get something down on paper that you will not forget. So that's where it comes with tagging. And of course, a great way to be organized is to ask them to be organized. And of course, if you got to restart, just start with some bullet points in that next column. You can also write on the back of the sheet, and tournaments will allow you to take multiple flow sheets. Maybe you want to have one paper specifically for your affirmative side, and maybe you want another flow sheet for the negative side. Totally up to you. However you're going to be organized. Some judges like to use Excel file and they like to type the arguments out in an Excel spreadsheet. Some use an iPad and either something like the Notes app on an iPad or, maybe Microsoft OneNote, things like that. You don't have to use a flow sheet. These are just provided to you if you don't have any way to flow or to write down the arguments within the debate round. And again, if you have any questions, tournament staff will be happy to help. Lastly, you have the parliamentary debate flow sheet. Again, very similar. You have the constructives, you have the rebuttals. Oh, and helpful distinction, a constructive, and they will explain this in judge orientation as well. A constructive is a speech in which you're able to build some sort of case. And there can be multiple constructives in team policy and Parli in which you can continue to hear new arguments for or against the resolution. And rebuttals are specific times in which you don't make new arguments, rather you focus on responding to the arguments that were brought up. There are some rules that go along with this that I want to make sure I don't mess up, so that's where you're going to find judge orientation really helpful. But just remember, a constructive is for constructing arguments, a rebuttal is for rebutting them. And if you go back to the other parts of the video, you'll see on these forms, Prime Minister constructive, first affirmative constructive, etc. Now, Parli is going to have very similar type tags to both LD and TP, especially because you can have a values resolution as a Parli resolution. You can also have a policy resolution as a Parli resolution. So you're going to maybe see these different terms. You have a resolutional analysis, right? RA. You have fact, which is a type of weighing mechanism, or you have a value fact, which is also a type of weighing mechanism. And then, of course, you have impact, and of course, you might write down point of information as POI. All right, that is the end of the debate round. The competitors have congratulated themselves, they shook your hand, they thanked you for judging, they've left the room, and now you are going to judge hospitality, which is a specific place designed for judges like yourself to rest, to fill out your ballots, and maybe even to get a little bite to eat. But once you have this empty ballot in front of you, some of you may not want it to be empty. You might want to make a note on the actual ballot. You're going to look at your flow, you're going to look at your ballot, and you got to figure out what you're going to tell these competitors. Because remember, everything you put on the ballot, not your flow. Sometimes judges can include their flow and they want the competitors to see it, but most of the time, judges are going to write all of their feedback specifically on their ballot, and the competitors are going to read it. So what exactly are you going to say? What are you going to do? That's what this section is for. So again, you have your LD ballot, and I want you to look at these numbers right here. This is a list of categories and what we call speaker points. And yes, competitors are ranked based on over the course of the 6 or more rounds. Well, in this case, over the course of 6 rounds, the rounds that they had in the preliminary part of their tournament, who consistently had the higher speech rankings. And you'll notice they're categorized from 1 to 5. 1 means like really, really bad, and 5 means absolutely excellent, maybe even perfect, right? Now, in this league, 1 isn't circled a lot because we have learned that 1 means really, really bad. So there's probably a special circumstance in which you'd write down 1. The lowest that most judges are going to go is 2, maybe even 3, but you get to be the decider of what was poor and what was excellent. And maybe there's something that was really good or really bad in your round, and so that's where you're going to write that down. Now, each of these ballots focuses on a particular category of individual points. Some of them are crossover. So let's look at the first one, value argumentation. What this asks you to rank is how well did they support the value? Now, if you look at this ballot, you'll notice that both affirmative and negative have these same rankings. And oftentimes, the person with the mathematically higher score wins the round. But this is not always true. You can have a better delivery, but worse argumentation. And therefore, even though one of the competitors sounded really good, they just made bad arguments, and so you're going to vote against them, right? So these individual points, or speaker points as they are called, are not the end-all be-all, and they do not have to be a reason for decision. They do not have to be the reason why your competitor lost and why you voted against them or why you voted for them. They're mostly just a helpful way to get the most amount of feedback from you as possible. So when you're thinking to yourself, okay, how well did these competitors support the value? You might circle 5 for really good, 4 for, it was pretty good, 3, it was okay, 2, not really good, and 1, it was absolutely terrible, right? Same thing with support. What do we mean by support? Well, we are asking ourselves, did they have good arguments? Did they use evidence? Did they reason? Support as in like, did they have the supporting cast? Did they do something that helped you be persuaded, right? Cross-examination. Did they ask good questions? Did they give good answers? And also, did they conduct themselves well? Depending on the debate, competitors can be really competitive, and when it comes to asking each other questions, it can get kind of heated sometimes. So maybe that goes into a factor of how you rank them for their cross-examination from excellent to poor. When it comes to refutation, what we mean here is, did they have good responses to the points that their opponent made? Were they able to show you why their opponent was wrong? If they were, 5 out of 5. If they weren't, well, it's up to you. Were they easy to listen to? Did they have a good delivery style? Did they make you feel at ease? Did they make the debate easier for you to listen to? That goes into the delivery category. And of course, the organization. Did they make it easy for you to follow the round? Did they make it harder? Were you confused more or less after they came up to speak? These are things that you can help write. And of course, the competitors are hopefully coached, and one of my goals is to coach them to read the numbers that they have been given. Maybe you gave them a 4, which means they need to work on that just a little bit more. For value debate, they need to work on their support just a little bit more, or they need to work on their cross-examination just a little bit more, if that makes sense. Now, team policy is going to be a little bit different. As you can see, persuasiveness is there rather than value argumentation, because team policy does not do value argumentation. So you also have the idea of evidence versus support, right? So 1, persuasiveness. Were the arguments that they made convincing? Did they persuade you? Do you believe them, right? Evidence. Did they back up their analysis with relevant and significant evidence? What do I mean by relevance and significance? Well, quoting Wikipedia is going to be less credible than quoting, a certain organization that's an expert in that topic, right? So different pieces of evidence may be more or less credible, determined by the argumentation you hear from the round. Cross-examination. Did they conduct themselves well in cross-examination? Refutation. Did they have good responses? Were they able to show you why their opponent was wrong? Delivery. Were they easy, enjoyable even to listen to? And organization. Were they easy to follow? Did they make your job easier or harder, right? And then, of course, you have a parliamentary ballot. And again, you have persuasiveness and support rather than evidence. But the persuasiveness and support might be the same as the value argumentation because, again, Parli debate can be a values debate. It can be a policy debate. It can be either, which is why they've used some of the same words from both of those ballots. Were the arguments they made convincing to you? That's what persuasiveness means. Support were the arguments that they made backed up with logic or relevant evidence. This is a primary focus on logic for parliamentary debate because competitors have strict rules when it comes to the sources that they can bring in. They can't bring in pre-written sources. They won't even know what their topic is 20 minutes before, so all they can bring in is stuff that they wrote down during their prep time, which means the sources that they bring might not be that big of a deal. It just might have to be logic. But some teams prep really well, so you might have to deal with that. But of course, again, their analysis here is, did they make it easier or harder for you to understand the resolution? How did they analyze it? Did they do it well enough for you to know what was going on? Refutation. Did they have good responses to their opponent? Were they able to show you why their opponent was wrong? Were they, again, enjoyable to listen to with delivery, right? And of course, organization. Organization is one of the key things throughout all of these forms of debate. Were they easy to follow? And did they make your job easier or harder? So these are just some of the things that you can think about when you're filling out your ballot. Of course, when it comes down to the reason for decision, you need to tell the judge specifically why you rank them the way that you rank them. Again, why did you vote the way that you did? Now, there's a couple things that I want you to consider, okay? First, you will make the right decision. A lot of judges feel like if they vote for something, they're gonna vote the wrong way, especially because you're giving someone the loss, and that might honestly end their tournament, depending on when you're judging. So you might be nervous to even vote because you don't want to ruin anyone's day. But I want you to remember, you are the judge. Whoever you vote for did something to deserve your vote. You'll never have to worry about making the wrong decision. And I think a lot of competitors, a lot of students who haven't already acknowledged that need to, because as the judge, you get to determine who wins the round. And the competitors are being trained to speak well and to have good critical thinking. And they're displaying that for you to make sure that they're doing that, which means if they lost, then that means they're not doing that. And they need to know that. So just remember, you're gonna make the right decision. There is no wrong decision. You're the judge and it's up to you. The second thing is be honest. You don't have to use specific feedback. You don't have to approach it like you would a coach or a parent or even a student. Just, why did you vote affirmative? Why did you vote negative? Maybe it's because you really liked the arguments and maybe forgot what they were, but you're just gonna say, I really liked the arguments that were made by the negative side. They persuaded me and I wanted to vote for them. Now, if you are the type of person that wants to be as helpful as possible, that's great. You can use certain words. Your analysis was stronger. You were more persuasive, your evidence made more sense, you had better cross-examination skills, I really was persuaded by your voting issues, things like that. Just kind of using the terms that you'll pick up and you'll hear from them, especially if they tell you how to vote, right? And lastly, you're going to be providing constructive feedback. And what I mean by constructive is you're not there to tear them down. You're not going to write on your ballot, hey, you suck. You're instead going to write down, here's what you could have done differently. Maybe there's a reason that the debater frustrated you a lot when you wanted to vote for them, but you just couldn't because they just were too disorganized. Maybe you tell them on your ballot, hey, I wanted to vote for you, but I couldn't because you were really disorganized. A better way you can be organized is by doing X, Y, and Z. Now, of course, these competitors can take your feedback. Whether or not they want to actually apply it is up to them, but what they need to do is hear why you're giving them the feedback that you're giving them. And that can often be the fun part, because if you're the type of person who likes to teach or the type of person who wants them to know what they did wrong, that's exactly what you can do. Here's what you did wrong. Here's how you can improve. And of course, if you need help filling out your ballot, they provide help at the tournaments. If you're not sure what to make of a situation, if something happened in a debate round that confused you greatly, they will always have help for you. One thing that Stoa is really good at doing is providing support, especially for judges who've had it, it's their first time judging. So not only do I want you to recognize the support that comes for the tournament, but I also hope this video was helpful in providing that support for you, because I want you to go into these rounds knowing what you're getting yourself into. And of course, I want to thank you for judging. This league and a lot of the success and the futures that come from these students, that they're able to, the opportunities that they're given, that they're able to use into their future, come from the feedback that you give them. Part of the reason that I'm at where I'm at in life right now is because of feedback that I was given from judges, reading over my ballots, learning how to better myself. I was able to win enough competitions to secure an opportunity to go to a private university almost for free, basically. It was there that I was able to learn a lot of things about life and a lot of things about the real world, and to set myself up for success, etc. Your analysis for students is like a butterfly effect. The helpful feedback that you give them is going to change their life in a very small way, but can lead to bigger changes down the road. So this is ultimately why Stoa appreciates you judging so much, and it's because there is so much power in your words and in your feedback, and we want to know how to engage with people. Remember, we're trying to learn critical thinking. We're trying to teach critical thinking, presentation skills, delivery. We're trying to learn how to conduct ourselves when disagreeing with other people, and that makes you just endlessly valuable. So that's why I want to say, on behalf of everyone who makes content for competitors, and of course for all coaches and parents of students, thank you so much for spending your time at these tournaments, for judging, and for pouring some of your experience into the lives of these debaters, so that hopefully they can use that feedback to fuel the opportunities and success that they will have in the future. I want to thank you for making it to this part of the video. Hopefully what you have been shown today was helpful in getting used to or understanding how you can judge. And of course, make sure to thank the person who sent this video to you. My name is Coach Micah. I create content for students, usually to help them persuade you as the judge, but of course wanted to take a moment to create a video for you, the judge. And if you're interested at how Lincoln Douglas works, or you want to learn more about this debate, maybe you have some friends who have kids that might be interested, or maybe this is your first year in the league and you're still trying to figure things out, and you want some coaching for your students or even for yourself, and trying to get familiar with how this whole debate thing works, especially with Lincoln Douglas, then I would ask you to subscribe to my channel, as I'm always trying to create content and produce videos specifically for that. I have a plethora of videos prior to this one if you want to check out my channel and watch through some of those. I talk about how to debate the resolutions, especially this next one that is coming up here, and I will continue to produce content for that. But not just for debate. A lot of tournaments also include speech events. So if those are things you're interested in, then go ahead and look out for some videos that I will be releasing about those as well. If you're a person that likes the work that I'm doing and you want to support me, I would appreciate that subscription. You could also visit my Patreon page. Right now, it's totally free to sign up for. I drop all of my content there first and foremost before anything hits YouTube. It always starts on Patreon. And of course, I offer resources to students and hopefully someday to judges and parents who want to learn more about the league, or to become better in their own craft, better at giving feedback, or maybe better becoming a coach themselves, and how to instruct their students. That's all content that I want to create someday, and the content that I've already created, special content for students, is all available on my Patreon page. The link will be in the description if you want to check that out. Anyways, I wanted to again thank you so much for making it to the end of this video, and I hope you have a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, and have a Happy New Year. Thank you so much for judging.